you might fall because I've made a tripod out of a laptop and an earring book. 6, maybe 7 books. I've got Princess in Practice by Connie Glynn, The Complete Winnie the Pooh Collection by A.A. Milne, Geekarella by Ashley Poston, and I know it's Poston because it says Poston on the side, The Midnight Unicorn by Alice Hemming, The Secret Cooking Club by Laurel Remington, Boys Don't Cry by Mallory Blackman, and Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and then some scrunchies. But I've tried to film this like 3 times already. First time was interrupted, second time somebody was listening outside my door, and now I've changed the tripod because before I had to be down here for you to see me, but now you can't see the top of my head, so I am having to like lean forward a bit. But it's better than it has been, so yes. Bye-bye! Sorry, my sister just interrupted me again. So, hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm Alice, and I like to do singing and signing videos and some random things in between. So, I'm doing another Simeon story a month after I did the first one, and the reason it's been so long is because I filmed the first one on my laptop, but the audio quality was really bad. And if I do it on my phone, you get good audio quality, but you don't get as much of a video because my phone's got not much storage space, as she says while she's sitting here clearing out. And also the stories are on my phone, so it's really difficult to film from my phone without having the stories. But I found this camera that I'm currently filming on, and it's got good audio, hopefully, and you can see me. The only thing is you can't see my hands unless they're like right in front of my face. So, for those of you who this is your first video, you might want to go back to my previous video, so I will try and link it in the card, which I believe is up there, but it might be up there. I will link it in the card, hopefully, but I will also link the playlist at the end of this video. But yeah, they will all make sense without seeing the other one because I will make it make sense, but if you want more in detail of the last stuff, then go watch the first one, then come back to this one, and then it'll make more sense. So I'm gonna film till I get bored, really. And also the first ones that I'm gonna say are all from Joseph's Quote still. So the other ones are from other songs, but I've currently got the ones from Joseph's Quote to finish. So let's get into it. So my first story time is from Joseph's Quote, as I just said. And this is one of the reasons why I need to watch the last video, because I explained about the ribbons, and I will briefly explain again. But basically we had a ribbon dance, and there are 2 groups in my drama academy. There's my group, which is the Wednesdays, and the Saturdays. And when we did this show twice. So we did our show at 1 o'clock, and the other show at 5 o'clock. The Saturdays at 5 o'clock. I think ours was a matinee, theirs was an evening performance. And so we did the ribbon dance for the Saturdays, and the Saturdays did it for us. And so most of the stories about the ribbon dance that I've got are for my group, so it was the Saturday show. I'm just going to grab a drink because my throat is really dry. So these are from this art show, no, the Saturday show. So we were given these ribbons, which originally were too short because the wrong ones had been ordered. So the person in charge had cut the ribbons and sewn new ribbon on, which was effectively craft ribbon. So it wasn't the right thickness or material, it wasn't very aerodynamic. And they all ended up breaking by the time we got to the show. There were a couple ones that were safe to use. Well, not safe, they were all safe, but there were a couple that didn't break. But the ones that did break, or the ones that were broken, had got, because the way the ribbons were, you had the ribbon and then at the end you had a triangle with a hole in it, which had metal around it, and then to attach that to the stick, there was a clip on it that went through the hole. And for the ones that had broken, what they did was they put a safety pin through the hole in the ribbon and the hole at the top of the hook, the stick thing. So that, yeah. So they did that, and I'm trying to clear space over my phone because this isn't liking it, but I don't want to delete half the stuff on my phone because the stuff on my phone is important on my phone. Yeah, so these ribbons broke, and I knew that my ribbon was the red ribbon because we'd been assigned and I knew that every time I danced with that ribbon, I'd done the dance well, and I didn't nearly strangle myself, and the ribbon didn't break. So when it came to the show, I walked off stage to grab my ribbon, as I was told to. I grabbed it from the person who had my ribbon, or who had the ribbons, and I was like, I need the red one. So I grabbed what I thought was the red one, but because in the wings it's not dark, it's not like pitch black, but because there's a show going on the stage, they're dark, so you can't be seen on, like, you can be seen off stage if you stand in the wrong place. But basically it was dark, so I couldn't really tell the colours. Like, I could, but I couldn't. And so I grabbed what I thought was the red ribbon, and then our choreographer grabbed me, and she was doing the dance, and I'll explain that in a further story. And she said, do you want this ribbon? Because I think it's the red one. I was like, oh no, I've got the red one. She was like, oh okay. We walked on stage and discovered that I had the orange ribbon and she had the red ribbon. And the colour of our ribbons wasn't crucial to the performance. It wasn't a case of, when your colour gets called, you do something. It wasn't like that. It was just a case of that was the one I'd rehearsed with and I knew that worked. So in my head I was like, Alice, it's just a ribbon, it will be fine, just do the dance to the best of your ability. So doing the dance, I got most of the way through, and then right at the end, like, we had like 4 counts of 8 left. I'm pretty sure, like, I can't remember exactly when it happened, but I'm pretty sure it was like 4 counts of 8 before the end. I did a thing where I like flung my arm somehow. I think I was doing like that with my ribbon, and as I did that, I think it was as I did that, I can't remember, but the ribbon flew off, and I really didn't have very long of the thing left, and the bits that I did have left, I'm pretty sure were the bits that I would be most likely to tangle myself anyway. But I was doing the dance and the ribbon flew off, but I couldn't grab it, so I just had to carry on, and I knew that it would have looked so much worse from the audience if I grabbed my ribbon. And yes, I stuck out like a sore thumb already because everybody else had their ribbons in their hands, but I was at the front of stage and I was putting my all into that dance even though I didn't have the ribbon, and me and one other person knew the dance the best because we paid attention and retained choreography, although the other person was the choreographer. But in my brain, the thing that made my brain calmer about it and made me think it doesn't matter, which sounds really selfish, but because it wasn't my show and the majority of the audience would have been there for the children's choir or the Saturdays, they weren't going to care that one of the ensemble dancers' ribbons broke. They wouldn't know who I was, and they wouldn't care, and they wouldn't come to me the next day and be like, oh, your ribbon broke, oh, it was so funny. Like, nobody was going to care at all. And so I think in my brain I was like, well, nobody was focusing on me, and even if they were, then it doesn't matter because that was one number in the show, and because the Saturday cast was a lot stronger than our cast most of the time, it wasn't the end of the world. And so I think, and also because my family and friends had come to that show, my show, which was earlier on in the day, but it was only at the end of the show when we went up to be collected by our parents that I discovered that I did know somebody in the audience, because my friend's mum is the head of education at the theatre, which meant that she and her sister came to watch the show. They came to the last show of the day, and I saw her and she was like, oh, you did so well. So which show did you see? She's like, this one. I was like, oh. She was like, yeah, but you did really well. Like, I don't think she said I covered it, because you can't cover it, but she was like, you carried on, that's all you could have done. So I think that kind of made me feel a bit better about it. But I mean, it is what it is, and it did annoy me, because if I'd have swapped ribbons it wouldn't have happened, but there isn't anything I can do about it, really. So yes. So my next story is from rehearsals with the ribbons, and again I had the wrong ribbon colour when I did this one, and this was our first rehearsal back after Christmas, and we were doing a run of Act 1 in front of our normal teachers, photographer, I'm pretty sure there was a photographer, the head of education, and the person who was like in charge, so 2 important people. And then my friend had come along to try out for like the term, or like for the first month, because we were allowed to bring a friend for the first month to see if they wanted to join in. So my friend was there and we were performing in front of them as well. And we had been told before Christmas we had to learn everything and we had to be off book and we had to know everything what we were doing. So I'm pretty good anyway, and as soon as I get something I try and learn it ASAP, because I like to have it embedded in my brain, because then I can add stage directions and all sorts. So I'd been learning it as we went along, and I knew everything the best out of everybody. As it was, but there was a lot of pressure as it was, and I was really shaky to begin with, because it was like I was just very scared. And so I think, I don't know, but Joseph's Coat is the fourth number in the show, so we weren't very far into the show, and it went okay. I'm pretty sure it went okay, I can't remember, but right at the end there's a lot of stuff with these ribbons that go, like we did circles around our heads and like all sorts of things that went involved the ribbon going round around my head, and I hadn't danced with this ribbon before, and I got so tangled in it. There was a move at the beginning called, I think it was called a dragon, where you did like this, and I got really tangled and really knotted, and I got my foot caught in the ribbon, which never happened. I never did that, and I was so annoyed at myself because I never got that stuck in a ribbon. And then we did this, and we just kept getting I was doing the things around my head, and I just kept getting it, just kept going round and round my head. And then I tried to untangle it, and as soon as I was untangled, it went again, and that was the worst I have done that dance. And it was a case of, oh my god, Heritage, if that happens, go the other way. And it was just, but I didn't do that again, and I hadn't, that ribbon, I never use that ribbon again because it was rubbish. This is why you don't cut ribbons and put new ribbon on, because it doesn't work. So when I did these, I was like, oh, I'm only going to film for 10 minutes worth of content, but I'm going to film all of the rest of the ones from Joseph's Coat, because otherwise you'll be fed up of them. And also, I said I'd tell you why my choreographer was there, so yes. So the next one is again in rehearsals, and this was like 2-3 weeks before the show. We were in a rehearsal, and there was one person who was doing the show missing, I think, because she wasn't well. And for the ribbon dance, there was, I think I said this last time, what's it called? The formation was at this point, because it changed, me at the front, like front and centre here, and then 2 people here and 2 people behind. So it was kind of like a diamond. It was kind of like a diamond. Yeah, it's like a diamond. It was like boom, 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 kind of. And me and the 2 people here had the same dance, and then these 2 people had a different dance, but these 2 did the same as each other but did different to us 3. And the person who was missing, so I was there, these 2 people were here, this person was here, but this person wasn't, so we were missing one person from the back, and I apparently was the only one that vaguely knew what we were doing when we all split into different things at the end. And the person behind me, who was doing the same thing as me, when we finished the dance, because everybody was like, you don't know what you're doing, like to people, was like, do it differently here, like walk differently, or you need to learn what you're doing and not copy Alice. And the person was like, you know, I don't know the choreography, I copy Alice. Like, he straight up said, I copy Alice. There wasn't any, no, I was just checking, or like, oh, I didn't realise there was no, I copy Alice, I rely on Alice for the choreo, basically. And then somebody said, oh, why doesn't Alice sit out and judge us? I was like, well, I don't want to sit out, I enjoy doing this. So they made me sit out on the chair at the front and watch them do the dance and critique them on the dance, and I was like, yeah, one of you's doing this at the wrong speed because you're out of time with each other, and I don't know what you're meant to be doing, but it's wrong. It was a case of, I don't know what you're doing wrong, but you're doing something wrong, and I basically ended up with the choreographer's job, because, and I hate doing that, like, I hate being asked to do, like, I hate in a rehearsal, especially a dance rehearsal, when you're doing a dance and then one of the people who's also doing the dance says, aren't we meant to do it like this? To everybody else, or do it like that. Everybody else, you're meant to do it like that, because that's the choreographer's job. Saying to the choreographer, is it meant to be like this because I'm doing it but somebody isn't, or like saying it more like that is okay and I don't mind that, but somebody else straight up saying you're doing it wrong because X, I really hate it. So then for me to be put there and be telling them, yeah, you're doing it too slow, you're going the wrong way, you need to do this I didn't like it, but I was given permission, so it was okay. But it was just weird. It was a weird experience. So yes, and it was great that happened like 3 weeks before the show. And then the next story, these kind of go together but they don't go together. So the person who had been cast as our Jacob and our Potiphar, this kind of goes for all of the songs. This is just like a thing that happened, but it affects Joseph's coat. The person who'd been cast as Jacob and Potiphar couldn't actually do our show because he was going to Poland, I think, on a school trip, and I think they came back the same day our show was, but he wouldn't have been able to get there for our show and he would have missed all of the rehearsals of that weekend. But he was the person, so I was here when we actually did the show, and like, so I was like in the middle, but I should have been over here and he be here, but so it was a rectangle, but because he left it would have just been weird, so I ended up being in the middle. So him leaving affected loads of things. It affected that, it affected Potiphar strangely enough, because we didn't have a Potiphar, we didn't have a Jacob. It affected all of our, like, he didn't have lots of dances because he was Jacob, but he did have a lot of singing because he was Jacob. And yeah, Jacob doesn't have a lot of singing, but they gave him a lot of singing because we didn't have a narrator, so they gave him a lot of the narrator stuff. They shared the narrator between everybody, but he got a lot of it. But Saturdays did it differently. So we were rehearsing up until like the week before the show. We were rehearsing with him sitting at the front, singing his bits with the script in front of him and singing everything with the script in front of him, which made me feel really bad about myself when I slipped up on the lines, because one, I'm human and I'm going to slip up on the lines at least once. But I was like, oh, but Tyler knows it. No, Tyler doesn't know it. He's sitting there looking at it in a script. But it really screwed with everybody because it was a case of who's actually meant to be singing this, and the Saturdays got told they needed to sing things a week before the show, and it was very stressful. It wasn't stressful, but it was just annoying that we'd been rehearsing with him even though he wasn't going to do the show for months, and we knew he wasn't going to be able to do the show for months. It was just annoying. But we had 4 people, well, effectively 4 people drop out of at least one show. So he dropped out of both shows because he couldn't do it. We had 2 people leave the group, like they'd been assigned characters and they left, and then we had one person, which I'm about to explain in a minute. So this person leaving because he couldn't do the show just kind of screwed everything. But we did manage it, but it was just a pain. Yeah, it's a pain. Right, and then the last story that I'm going to tell today, actually I'm going to tell 2 more stories because the other one's more about the song than the dance. I'm going to tell one more story after this. Was the reason why my choreographer had to come on stage and dance. So on the Sunday, our show was on the 8th of March, which was a Sunday. We had done the Saturday show and all had gone well, everybody had managed it, all was well. No, we'd done our show, we'd done our show. It had all gone really well and it was amazing. And then one of our people said he felt really sick, and he looked it as well. But quite often I'm like, do you actually feel sick or are you just hungry? Because it was like 3 o'clock and we hadn't had any lunch, and it was our lunch break next. But he got sent home, which didn't screw much except the fact that he was one of the guards, and the Saturday guards were brothers, so the people who had been guards in our show couldn't do it because they were brothers. So it ended up that somebody else from our group was like, oh, I know what he does, I'll do it for you, which is really helpful and really kind of him, and the person who did that I actually love. He is amazing. But yeah, so it only really screwed that. The only other thing that it messed with was because as ensemble we weren't in as many dances, so it wasn't as if loads of formations had been ruined, and the formations that had been ruined were more clumps than formations, so it didn't really matter. But the one that it did affect was the ribbon dance. So we already had me in the middle here, and then we had 2 people, and then we originally had 2 people, but he dropped out. No, he's there. He dropped out, so it was me, 2 people, and somebody here. And the person here was the youngest one out of all of us doing the ribbon dance, and she wasn't particularly confident, and absolutely lovely, and I absolutely adore her, and she is going to go on to be absolutely amazing. but I don't think it would have been fair to shove her on stage on her own and be like, right, do this. And it would have really screwed the formation, and she is tiny. Like, I was in my character shoes, which are like this big, and I was at the front and centre, so then if she had to move from her side to the centre, she wouldn't be seen. So it wasn't really fair to leave her on stage like and have our formation lopsided. So our choreographer was like, right, I'm going on. I think she must have taken some persuading, because when the person left, because he couldn't go, like, because he was on the school trip, there were talks that she would have to go on stage, and it was kind of good that she didn't, because if she did, we'd have been absolutely stuffed with this do-girl. So she was like, right, apparently I'm coming on stage and I'm doing the dance. And she was like, right, Alice, what are the colours? Tell me the colours. I need the colours. But I don't think she sang the colours, because you can't learn the colours in 2 minutes. But we had headscarves that we had to have like around our head, so we looked like we belonged there. And she put one of those on, and she had a black t-shirt on anyway. So she didn't really fit in, but she wasn't meant to be there. So she had a scarf around her head, and she grabbed a ribbon. And she grabbed my ribbon. She had my ribbon, and I've said this, but it's fine. We hold no grudges against each other, because it's my fault she had my ribbon. And she did the dance, and yeah. So yeah, and I have one final story to tell from Joseph's Coat, and then no more Joseph's Coat, you'll be happy to hear. So the last one of this is actually, if you know the song and the show, you'll know that Joseph's Coat has 20, it's either 26 or 29 colours, I can't remember. And the colours are red, yellow, green, brown, scarlet, black, ochre, peach, ruby, olive, violet, fawn, lilac, gold, chocolate, mauve, cream, crimson, silver, rose, azure, lemon, russet grey, purple, white, pink, orange and blue. And the way we had it was the girls would say all the colours but no ands, and the boys said all of the colours and all of the ands, except, so the colours go around twice, so it goes red, yellow, green, brown, scarlet, black, ochre, peach, ruby, olive, violet, fawn, lilac, gold, chocolate, mauve, cream, crimson, silver, rose, azure, lemon, russet grey, purple, white, pink, orange, and then the colours go again, and then the second time you say blue, so you don't actually say blue the first time. So when we would, and then we had it so that when you said the second colours, instead of everybody saying red, yellow, green, brown, scarlet, black, ochre, peach, yeah, only Joseph said those colours, and then we all came back in with ruby, whatever the next colours are, I can't remember. But I had learned the colours were the first thing I think I learned. Other than my audition stuff, the colours were the first thing I learned, because we knew we were doing Joseph for ages, and I knew there were colours in the coat, and so I watched videos of Philip Schofield showing off that he knew the colours, and I'd learnt the colours really quickly and really easily. And it's just a really random thing to know, and I just like the fact that I know the colours of Joseph's Coat. It's just really random, but it's a great thing to be like, right, and what's your random thing you can do? I can tell you 20 however many colours it is. I can do all the colours in Joseph's Coat. Bet you can't do that. Like, if somebody was like, name me an amount of colours, and he was saying, how many colours could you name? I could say that I could name loads of colours, because Joseph's Coat is great. It's just amazing. But I was the first one to learn the colours, because it was like the first thing I properly learnt. Especially because when you're singing, you don't want to be looking down at the ground or like at a script. And songs are so much easier to learn. At least I find that songs are so much easier to learn than dances or like dialogue. And the colours are kind of a mix of both. So learning those meant that it was a lot easier to learn everything else. Because I didn't have that mental block of, oh my god, I have no idea what comes next. So I learnt the colours, but obviously, like, I learnt them first, that's not a big thing. But it got to, like, a couple of weeks before the show, and some people knew them, some people didn't. But one major person who didn't was our Joseph. He had 8 colours that he had to say on his own. He had to say red, yellow, green, brown, scarlet, black, ochre, peach. That's all he had to say on his own. And he always said the wrong ones in the wrong order, and he said ones that we then had to say, which made us look like idiots because we were copying what he was saying, but actually we were doing it right. So yeah, be the first to learn things. It's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. So this was a really long video, and I'm very sorry, but I'm not sorry at the same time. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully it won't be a month before I do another Simeon story. comment some things you want me to do though in the comments below. And yes, so I will link the playlist, whatever side it is. I have no idea what side it is anymore. Actually, the playlist will be here now, my channel, and subscribe to my channel here and watch the playlist here, and maybe a video might pop up here as well. I don't know. But I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.